going to make a contact sheet of our negatives. So this is what a contact sheet looks like. It's a same size replica of your negatives, but it's a positive version of it. So we use contact sheets for a number of reasons. One is to get a little preview of what each of our pictures looks like. It also allows us to evaluate each negative to see its composition, its overall exposure, if it has any damage to it, and to see if it is nice and sharp and in focus. So in order to make a contact sheet, we're going to make a test strip first. So for the test strip, you're going to need the contact printer again. The lighting is going to be very similar to the lighting that we have for the contact print. So you want to make sure that the light overfills the contact printer, and you want it at about the second dimmest light as a starting out point. If that is too dark or too light, then you can adjust it later on after evaluating your test strip. So my light is at the correct size and brightness, and then I've gone ahead and set my timer to 3 seconds. Then I have my test strip. And test strips for your contact sheet can be a little bit longer if you so choose to, but the standard size that we've been cutting for your paper will suffice. So I might cut my test strip down, shiny side up, and I'm just going to lay my negatives on top. And I'll put it underneath one of the strips. Make sure that you keep all of your negatives inside the sleeve. You don't want to lose any of them. But you'll just pick one strip that has a pretty good range of value and pictures that overall look good. I'm going to lay this down. And I kind of start from the left, so I know that that's my starting off point. And then I can see that my test strip kind of ends 3/4 of the way across, about halfway through my fourth negative in that row. So when the glass goes down, it does shift a little bit, so you might have to adjust. But then you'll press it down, and then you'll see that the test strip is underneath my negative strip. So just like with other test strips, you're going to cover up everything but a little bit. You'll turn the timer on, light turns on for 3 seconds, turns off. You move it over a little bit, timer on, off, all the way across. It's good practice when doing a test strip for a contact sheet is to kind of make each section half the size of your negative. So that will help you figure out how many sections you've gone across and to help you better read your test strip at the end. So this is what your test strip looks like for your contact sheet. Once again, you have different sections that go from lightest to darkest all the way across with different increments. For this one, I went ahead and I did half sections of each negative for each section. So that way it's a little bit easier for me to read. So the lightest section you have got the least amount of time, and then the darkest section got the most time. So underneath, I've kind of divided it up a little bit to help evaluate the test strip. So we're going to look at the section numbers. So the very lightest one is going to be your section 1, and then section 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, all the way across. So from here, we're going to look at figuring out the final time for each section. So we're going to go ahead and do the multiplication of the section number by the amount of time that this timer was set to. In this case, my timer was set to 3 seconds. So 1 times 3 is 3 seconds, 2 times 3, 6, 3 times 3, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, and 30. So there I have the final time to get each result from my test strip. So looking at my test strip, I want to pick the area where my negative looks the best. It's not too light, not too dark. It's a good exposure. So I'm going to look kind of in this darker end where I get some more value. And I think between section 7 and 8, right around there would be a good time. Based on what my negatives look like overall, some of them were a little bit lighter than others, some were a little bit darker. So we'll just go with 24 as a good time. Now it's important to remember that not every negative on your contact sheet is going to look perfect. Each negative is different and special in its own way, so you might have some that end up too dark and too light, but that's okay. As long as you can overall see the previews of each of your pictures, you're in good shape. So now that I've evaluated my test strip, I'm ready to make my final contact sheet. So I'm going to go to my timer, and I'm going to change it to what I decided was my magic number based on my test strip. So in my example, 24 was my magic number. I'm going to leave everything else the same. Do not change the brightness, do not change the height, leave everything as is. And now I'm going to look at my negative sleeve, and I'm going to see how many pictures I have. So since I have a full sheet, I'm going to use a full sheet of photo paper for my contact sheet. But if I'm using a smaller roll of film that has, let's say, 3 strips in it, it'd be wasteful to use a full sheet of paper. Instead, I would cut a piece of paper in half and use that instead. So be conscious of how much paper you're using. You don't want to waste any. So since I have a full negative sleeve, I'm going to use a full sheet of 8 by 10. So when the lights are off, I'm going to take my photo paper out, shiny side up, and place it in the contact printer. I'm going to carefully lay my negatives on top, sandwich it together, and then I will start the timer. The light turns on for the 24 seconds or whatever your magic number is, and then turns off when it is done. So when the light turns off, you'll go ahead and develop your photo paper, and in the end, you will have a beautiful contact sheet to evaluate all of your negatives. So you can see some of my negatives are a little bit lighter, some one's on the bottom, and some can be a little bit too dark, but overall I have a pretty good range and I can see just about every negative.